Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 8 of Code Lyoko, End of Take. And sweet to the point, a movie director comes to town. His name is James Finson, and he is a kind of from what I can see, he kind of is a guy who makes kind of lame B movie monster flicks. And the reason he's in town, is he's planning on scoping out the factory as a potential set for his next movie. The Leo that's such the when the Lyoko group hears this, they realize they have to ensure that he doesn't just stumble across the supercomputer, and by extension Lyoko and Dilita. Ulrich goes to him during an autograph session and tries to dissuade him from the factory by saying that it's full of a bunch that's old, creaky, and just full of and just pretty much a horrible place to film. But Vincent, the more he learns about the more he hears all this, is just more determined to be here. Like he hears about Ulrich says it's full of rats. He thinks, "Well, awesome. We need stuff like that." He says the place could fall apart at any time. It's like excellent. I always like working dangerously. It keeps your actors on your toes, which I think is a really stupid thing, but we'll get to that when we actually talk about him as a character. And just pretty much in every way, Ulrich is just trying to dissuade him, but every horrible thing that Ulrich can think of to dissuade him from actually filming in the factory, it just makes him want to film there more. But however, there is one upside to this. Thanks to Ulrich's knowledge, so to speak, of the factory, he decides that he wants to hire Ulrich. He says he wants to hire Ulrich as a technical advisor, which Ulrich accepts because it's pretty much a win-win situation here. If he were by doing that by working on the film, he can not only pretty much get the chance to work on a film set, but he can also ensure that Vincent and his crew don't stumble across the supercomputer. So yeah, just a win-win. However, Ulrich points out that it would be kind of hard to convince the principal to that by doing this work he'd have to skip classes, and it'd be hard for Vincent to convince the principal to let him skip school. And yeah, when they do talk to the principal refuses. But he does concede. But the principal does ultimately concede when Sissy offers to talk her down into letting Ulrich skip classes on the condition that she gets a part in the movie, which she does. She gets to play the monster's first victim, so she's got like 20 seconds of screen time. But yeah, either way, it all works out. Ulrich can now work on the set, and Ulrich can now work on the set, and he can pretty much ensure that nobody can get on. Although, just make sure that the Finson crew don't discover the supercomputers. I mean, unfortunately, though, we soon learn that Finson is kind of an egotist and kind of one of those film directors that really doesn't take criticism well. And when Sissy and Ulrich arrive for the first day of shooting, their cell phones are confiscated because, well, Finson doesn't want anyone leaking anything about the film, which I can kind of see the logic in that, but but we also learn that the crew pretty much lives on the set. I'm not even kidding. They have a little tent set up and everything. It's kind of extreme, is what I'm saying. And I understand trying to keep your film a secret, but it's kind of extreme. On top of this, he ends up showing off the design for the monster, and it sort of looks like, I kind of want to say it kind of looks like a cross between a xenomorph and a predator. Like the head, like its body mainly looks like a xenomorph, but it's also got a bit of salamander parts, and it's got these tendrils on the side of its head that kind of give it a design of a predator. Although what's kind of funny is that when Ulrich does try to compare it to a xenomorph, Vincent gets defensive and says, "No, it's mine. It's mine. I made it up. It's unique and it's mine." It's actually kind of funny. And well, he never says it's a xenomorph. You can kind of tell that that's what they were going for. But yeah, Vincent's kind of an idiot. He's an egotist and an idiot. But anyway, whatever. But either way, that night. But either way, we do. And from the film crew's reaction after he storms off, the film crew actually go to comfort Ulrich, and I'm guessing that they're used to this sort of thing. But anyway, going off on a slight tangent. Anyway, but later that night, we once again get our regular Xana plot for the episode as during the night, Xana managed to activate one of the computers, and through that little shadowy goop thing, whatever that he is, he manages to possess the monster that Vincent designed. As such, and on top of that, as such, that same night, Ulrich manages to sneak out of his tent and goes down to the basement so that he can contact Jeremy through the supercomputer. But Sissy wound up waking. He wound up accidentally waking Sissy up, and so she followed him down to the basement and caught him talking to Jeremy. However, before Ulrich can think of an excuse for what the heck's going on, they're suddenly attacked by the monster. And Vincent actually stated when he showed it off that he developed some kind of technical array in the monster so that it can actually shoot out goop from its mouth. Something that it immediately uses as it attacks Ulrich and Sissy and just covers the entire the supercomputer terminal in slime. As such, Ulrich and Sissy make a run for it, and before Ulrich ran away, he managed to get through to Jeremy that Xana's done something, and so Jeremy immediately gets to work activates the system for scanning for towers, and manages to get it down to the ice sector, or the polar sector, as we learn it's called this episode. As such, he goes out to contact. He wakes up Yumi and Odd, and they all run to the factory. And of course, they're actually able to quickly sneak in because the guy that was supposed to be guarding it is asleep at the job. And so once they get inside, the group splits up. Jeremy and Odd go down to the basement, go down to the supercomputer so they can send Odd to Lyoko, while Yumi's going to go looking around for Ulrich and Sissy. In the meantime, though, and speaking of which, they did manage to get away from the monster for a little bit as they tried taking the elevator, but it managed to halt the elevator and tried crawling through the floor. They managed to they managed to escape using an escape hatch, and they then went through the ventilation system before going to a main area in the factory. But even then, that didn't work out well, as the monster managed to track them down and then hit them both with slime, pretty much sticking them to the wall. However, rather than finishing them off, it instead just leaves them there, which Ulrich thinks that it's doing on purpose because it's trying to lure the rest of the group here, which again makes sense. Xana is which again makes sense. From all we've seen with Xana is tactful. He's malicious, cruel, but tactful. And if he's just taking control of the monster to go after the group, makes sense that he'd use innocent victims as bait. In either case, it works. It actually kind of works, as Yumi managed to find Sissy and Ulrich, and using a pocket knife, she managed to cut them down from the wall. But unfortunately, Vincent manages to find the group, and by the time that Yumi got there, it was morning, and Vincent discovered that his monster was loose, and combine that with Sissy and Ulrich being missing, he thinks that they're the ones that took it. As such, he takes Yumi, Odd, and Sissy to another room and tries to interrogate them about where the monster is, but that doesn't last long, as the monster goes into the room and just knocks Vincent aside to try and get to the kids. They manage to get away, but Vincent tries calling his crew to stop them from getting away, which I think is dumb. And he doesn't even question how his monster is moving on its own, which, yeah, that's just, I don't understand that. Even Sissy questioned how it could move on its own. But all he's doing is like, no, I created you. You have to obey me. Blah, 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 blah. This guy's just an idiot. But either way, the crew that he called gets slimed to the wall, as well as same with him. And so the monster tries going after the kids, who manage to hold themselves up in another room, though even they know this is a temporary measure, as they know it'll try and find another way in. In the meantime, though, Odd managed to get into Lyoko, and so Odd and Aelita go searching for the tower. But this is also we also get to see a new variant, and we also get to see a new Xana monster. In this case, I think we see these creatures that I think are called hornets, and it's an appropriate name because they fly in a swarm and they look like, well, hornets. They got the body type, their faces are the Xana symbol, they fly around, their stingers can shoot lasers. It's just, they're like hornets. And either way, they chase after them, and they're pretty much, and they chase after Odd and Aelita and are just completely gunning for them. Odd managed to take out one before he and Aelita managed to get away from them somewhat. And they even managed to go down this little ice slide before coming out in the bottom. bottom, but unfortunately Zan decided to throw another curveball their way as when they managed to find the tower that Zan activated, there's two of them, though even though Jeremy scans say that there's one. I lead it to this is just Xana trying to mess with them to keep them distracted, so they have to figure out which one's the real tower and which one's the fake, though even then they don't have a lot of time as the Hornets manage to catch up with the group. Odd managed to take out two before they managed to take him out, and Alita finally thinks that does eventually go into one of the towers and tries deactivating it, though, and going with how the show normally works, with the whole always at the edge of doom just before everything gets fixed. The monster man in the real world, the alien whatever monster from Vincent's film managed to get into the room by jumping through the ceiling, and as it has it has Yumi, Ulrich, and Sissy cornered, and of course it goes right for Ulrich and Yumi and starts choking them. But thankfully, Aelita did manage to pick right as she deactivates a tower, and upon doing so, it freezes the monster and causes time to reverse back to when Vincent was doing his autograph session. Only this time, instead of Ulrich trying to dissuade him from using the factory, he actually acts encouraging. Like, yeah, it's a good idea going there and all that. Only this time he says, actually, they use that location for another film. It was like a sci-fi film with an alien. And the instant Vincent hears that, he doesn't want anything to do with the factory at all, which, again, I think is nice. It makes sense. Ulrich probably learned that from his time working on the set, so, yeah, it's nice, so. Overall, what do I think of this episode? It's cute. It's just a nice little filler episode. Nothing's really advanced in terms of plot in this episode. It's just a kind of amusing little episode, and I actually kind of like that. It is kind of smaller scale in comparison, as the monster really, as Xana possessing the monster is kind of small potatoes, especially since the last time Xana possessed a monster, it turned into a giant, but at the very least, it is kind of nice. It does add a slight sense of tension, as this thing is pretty agile and strong, so it could be anywhere in the factory. Which it doesn't. It's not like shaking your boots kind of scary, but it's nice, and I like that. On top of that, it is and again, this is another situation where we see Sissy not being a bitch, because while she is kind of acting a little arrogant and definitely and even kind of uses whatever sway she has with her father to get into the film, by arranging a deal with Vincent. At the very least, she does kind of react realistically to the monster and does ask the proper questions. She's not being angry at anybody. She's not putting herself in front before Ulrich. She's relying on him to protect her and help her out. She pretty much is just reacting how anybody would react in the situation. And again, while we have seen her in situations like this before, again, reset, she doesn't remember those events. But again, I'm okay. She doesn't really do anything heroic in the episode. She's just kind of running at the monster, but then again, what can she do against it? And it's a similar case with Ulrich. He's got good survival skills, but the best weapon he could have against the monster when Yumi, and Sissy were cornered was a pipe. So, yeah, they're not exactly. That he's not going to be the big defender in this case either. But with that said, I think another saving grace of this episode is James Vincent himself, because this guy is pretty much a picture for egotistical directors that can't take criticism. Because he acts like the very first shot of this episode is the school watching one of his films, and it's pretty much just a cheesy monster movie, girl being cornered by monster, but then guy comes up and kills it with somehow a bullet making a big hole in the monster's chest before going in for a kiss. It's actually kind of cute. Actually kind of cute and kind of dumb. And the guy is also a bit, in the beginning he does seem like a kind of sort of nice guy because he does kind of show shades of his true nature when Sissy asked to be in the film. And again, to be fair, anybody would react the way he reacted, because she kept telling him, I want to be in your film. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, well, I'm sorry, the whole thing's been cast. I can't put you in. So, and of course she leaves in a huff. But the more you see of him throughout that episode, the more you see he's kind of got a big head. especially when you see that the film that especially when he has his crew take away Ulrich and Sissy's phones, and apparently has his crew live on whatever set they're working on, which I can kind of see the logic on. And to be fair, I've never worked on a movie, and I know that they have trailers for living in during shoots, but at the very least, I don't think he'd if they have living quarters nearby. I don't think that they would. This feels like just complete sequestering, especially since he has them live in tents, freaking tents. I would expect, which I think is very low grade. Like, you can't afford, even if you were going to have them live on the set so they wouldn't leak anything. Can't you go and buy trailers for them? Or is this really just a B-movie schlock fest? Which, actually, it might be, because he says he made the monster himself, and later on he wakes up his film crew by playing music that apparently he made himself too. Which I think just adds to kind of the cheapness and the B movie factor here. He's kind of an arrogant ass who doesn't. He's arrogant. He can't take, like, again, going back to when he showcased off the monster and Ulrich tried to almost made a comparison to the xenomorph. He gets super defensive. When it's missing, he acts angrily. Though, to be fair, again, it's one of their central props. Of course, I think anybody would be angry. But then again, on top of that, but then again, when he finds the kids, he immediately blames them. When he sees the monster, he doesn't react with a normal "what the hell's going on here." He reacts with, "No, I'm your master. Obey me." Blah blah blah. It was so dumb. And of course, and he's quick to pat himself on the back too, a lot. Like when he finds the factory, he's like, "Oh yes, I was right to choose this place," or look at my great design," or listen to the music I'm playing. And then, of course, when how he's ultimately dissuaded from using the factory after the time reset is when Ulrich says that a sci-fi film was shot there before. I think that was actually fun. That's actually funny too, because he seems to be one of those directors that wants to give his vision, but do it on the cheap, like which I think actually, which is sort of amusing when watching. He doesn't really get any big comeuppance beyond getting stuck to a wall at the end, but he is sort of entertaining in that regard. So yeah. Otherwise, though, the episode's it's entertaining. It's just cute. It's entertaining. Like I said, nothing is really advanced plot-wise with this episode. We don't really learn anything too big about the characters. It's just a fun little premise. Factories being used as a film site, or someone's got to be there to ensure that no one discovers the factory. Monster comes to life, which, again, also, by the way, you knew, which also another thing I liked, another thing that's kind of amusing, you knew the monster was going to be what Xana used, because the instant you saw that thing appear, I was like, Xana's going to possess that thing, and yeah, sure enough it is, because it's cliche, what would you expect? But, yeah, on the whole, just a cute little premise, nice little Monster Hunter episode. It can be entertaining. James Fenton was amusing to watch. We got some slight building for Xana's army with the Hornets. Some nice thriller moments with them being chased by the monster. Overall, just sort of a cute episode. Nothing great, nothing amazing. Doesn't advance the plot. Doesn't advance the main overarching plot. But overall, just cute episode, entertaining and fun. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.